honored to be asked to moderate this event tonight. My name is Chloe Schwenke. I am currently a consultant with the World Bank and an adjunct professor at Georgetown University. I'm very pleased also to say that the consulting work I'm doing at the World Bank is about LGBTI issues. Who would have ever believed a few years ago? So progress is being made. I'm going to ask each of the panelists, this is rather unorthodox, but this is the Netherlands Embassy. So I'm going to ask each of the members of the panel to introduce themselves in one sentence, because our time is quite short. The foreign minister has to leave a little bit after 7. The rest of the panel has agreed to stay until 7:30, but we would like to have a chance to really get some discussion going. So if I could ask you to introduce yourself.
Great. Good evening. My name is Randy Berry. I'm the Special Envoy for the Human Rights of LGBTI persons for the United States government.
I'm Bert, I'm the Foreign Minister of the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
And I'm Mark Bromley with the Council for Global Equality, a civil society advocacy organization here in Washington.
Thank you very much, panel. This was a remarkable film in the sense that it showed a very human side of what a lot of us in this room struggle for on a daily basis, often a very rough and tumble political environment or institutional environment. This was a family environment, and one of the most interesting lessons from this is a lesson that we've certainly learned in this country, that what we officially call LGBT contact theory works. When people connect with each other in relationships, family settings, situations where it's a person, it's someone you dearly love and care for, and you're all in this together. I'm a transgender person. When I transitioned, my family transitioned. They had no choice. And we see that in each of these cases where the family is pulled into this and their reaction is critical to how this happens. So this is instructive. This is an opportunity to see what we can take away from this in the context of the work that we do here each time. Now I'd like to ask the minister first, if I could, a question. And that is one really looking at and taking cognizance of the history of the Netherlands and its strong tradition of human rights advocacy. This is something the Netherlands is well known for, and certainly that includes LGBTI persons as well. So, of course it's important to take that principled stand, to stand for human rights and be outspoken about that. But how do you convert the lessons of this film, a very personal set of stories, into the work that you do as the foreign minister of a major country? How do you take this and make that yours in a way that's effective for these issues?
Well, there are many answers to that and many opportunities and possibilities. And it's definitely not only the high politics of meetings in the Human Rights Council or talking to my colleagues in Indonesia, as I just did recently, on the backlash on LGBTI rights. I think it's also promoting these kind of films. Why? Because I think in the end, people, if they look at this movie, this film, everybody can associate, whatever you are, whatever individually sexual orientation you have. It's about the mothers and the fathers, it's about the schools, it's about the friends, it's about the institutions, it's about religion, it's about the hypocrisy that we all have in our lives in all kind of areas. It's about deep felt love by parents to children. You can say, well, what does a politician do with it? Well, I think in the end, it's a bit of a cliche, but if you talk about real people-to-people diplomacy, there's an enormous amount of opportunities to do something with film, with movements, with supporting civil society. Also for politicians sometimes to go and reach out. I mean, I try to do that in some of the countries I'm visiting as a foreign minister. Of course, we have our own issues in the Netherlands with lawmaking, for instance. At the moment, we have just passed, or it's already actually 2 years ago, a specific law on transgender people, because we realize the enormous exploitation and vulnerability, especially also in the medical field. When people make the transition, you know this much better than I, what the risks are, and we feel also that people by law have to be protected. With these kind of issues, you can also talk to other countries. Do we actually learn from each other? Can we have similar legislation? So I think you have to work in very different fields, in a very political advocacy, right, in thinking through, also not taking any moral high grounds. We have issues in all our societies that cope with things that people are, for reasons that we understand or not understand, fearful for, so you better discuss them. That's what this lesson is about. Nobody is beyond reproach or discussion. It's about the real life of a real person, and it moved me very much, this movie. I think I think it's well done, but I leave that also to others to judge, honestly. And that small sentence about the Netherlands, I don't know. I don't think anybody dubbed that. America was called as well, I think. So that was good.
I don't know if you had that plug put in there or not, but that was good. Turning now to Special Envoy Randy Berry, and still on the same theme of contact theory, Special Envoy Berry is contact theory personified. Here's a seasoned diplomat with extensive experience and a very engaging personality. He's out there face-to-face as an openly gay man, connecting with many people, many counterparts in countries where they would not normally be talking, and certainly at a senior level with gay men, or anyone in the LGBTI community. So I'd like to ask you, based on, again, this sort of feeling of this, does your very presence and your personality change things to make the conversation different in your position?
Well, I don't know so much that my personality and my presence changes the conversation, but I think a couple of things are clear to me out of the contact that I've had as I've been traveling around, and it comes back to a central theme that was mentioned in this film, and that is that the problem, the greatest challenge that I see is one of ignorance. People just don't know. The good thing is there's a solution for that, and it's personal knowledge. You know, that I think back to, I had a chance to travel through the Balkan states a few months ago, and looking at this as a foreign policy issue, I was really struck by the National Democratic Institute did a study about the average person's level of knowledge of a member of the LGBTI community, and it was shockingly low, ranging from 5% in a place like Kosovo to just under 20% in Serbia. But the interesting thing that I learned was that in our own context, in the United States, it was a set of comparative data that basically asked that same question all the way back to 1985, when in the US the figure was just in excess of 20%. Last year it was nearly 90%. And I think that it's impossible to disconnect the level of personal knowledge from that progress on broader rights. And it's because of that essential human aspect that I think at the end of the day, through the interventions that the foreign minister leads for his country, or the engagements that I lead in mine, at the end of the day, it's all about the individuals at the most basic level. It's about creating the right kind of environment, decreasing the amount of official stigma to allow this to work. And I think that's the only thing that's ever changed. I think that's been behind any great social change, has been exactly this, is that contact. And I think that's our responsibility, is to do what we can to make that the conditions right for